to yet another episode where we shall be going over the prelim mathematics paper 2 2023 for Houghton. Okay, so the paper was out of 150 for 3 hours, and then we have 10 questions that we need to really work with. Okay, I'll try to push as much as I can. Okay, so question number 1, they're telling us that a survey was conducted among a group of learners that to compare the time that was spent on Instagram and then that time that is spent on TikTok. So remember, these are social media platforms. We want to see if there is any bit of relationship between them. Okay, so they're telling us the time spent on Instagram in minutes is given as that, and then that of TikTok is that. Those are the values. They drew for us a box on this as well. All right. Then they ask us to calculate the correlation coefficient of the data. Remember, for us to get to the point of even getting the correlation coefficient, we need to know how to operate our calculators. So step number 1, we need to choose the mode. Okay. And then from the mode, we need to look for start, which I think number 2, usually number 2. Then by the start, we need to look for the a plus bx, or sometimes it's just a small a plus bx. Then you enter the value. So the first row will represent the x values, and then the second row will represent our y values. You enter those ones in a column format. Then we shall press the AC or the on button. Everything must disappear. You wipe out everything on the screen. That is done. Then we're going to press Shift and 1, and then look for number 5. We select 5. So this 5 will have the value of A, the value of B. Number 1 is A, 2 is B, and then 3 is R. So the correlation coefficient is number 3, which is the R. So the correlation coefficient that I got was 0.96, if I'm to round off to 2 decimal places. Okay, then comment on the strength. So with the strength, we need to see, is it positive or negative? But looking at the pattern, the way the direction that the dots are taking, this is an increasing pattern, so it's a positive relationship. Then when you look at the size of the coefficient, it's a very big one. So we're just going to say that we have a very strong, okay, so a very strong positive correlation. Okay, very strong positive correlation. Then they want the equation of the least square regression line, which must always be in the form of y is equal to mx plus b, okay? But this will be in the form of a plus bx, okay? So from our calculators, again, Shift and 1, then you choose number 5 for regression. We shall get our values of a and b. So I'm getting my a as 8.12, and then I'm getting my b as a 1.015 if I round up to 3 decimals. If you have 2 decimals, you have 1.03, which is still fine. So the equation in this case is going to be y is equal to 8.12 plus the 1.015 with x. Or if you're using the 1.02, then it would be the other way around, where you have y is equal to 8.12 plus 1.02x. Then 1.4, they want us to predict. Okay, so we're gonna use the equation that we got or obtained. So for us to predict the time that is spent on TikTok, remember initially we agreed that TikTok is gonna be the y variable, okay? So if our x is 115 minutes, we just need to substitute. So y is going to be 8.12 plus 1.02 times 115. Okay, so when I punch that into the calculator, 8.12 plus 1.02 times 115, I'm getting 125. Okay, so that's 125 minutes. It's 25.42. 125 0.42. If you used, let's say 1,015, it would give us, let's see, 15, it's an approximation of 124. Okay, 0.8 something. So if I'm to round it off, roughly 1.5 minutes that will be spent on TikTok if we have 115 on Instagram. Then 1.5, it was noticed that 4 learners' data was not recorded, okay? And then the mean of the TikTok and the Instagram was 73.4 minutes. The researcher commented that the total amount of time spent on the 2 platforms was more than a full day. Do we agree or disagree? Okay, so we know that initially we have 6 pieces of data, 2, 4, and 6. Now, if we include the 4 pieces, it's going to give us 10 pieces of data. So I'm going to get the total. Remember, our mean must be the sum over the number of items. Okay, so if the mean of 10 data pieces is 73.4, is equal to the total there over the 10. Then I'll multiply both sides by 10, so that the total, let's say for TikTok, is going to be 73.4 times 10, which gives me 734. This is just TikTok. Then if I look at Instagram, remember it's the same thing. So I'm just going to multiply this by 2. So 734 times 2 just gives me a total of 1468 minutes for both platforms. Now, how long is a full day in minutes? So we know that one day has 24 hours. Okay, and then the 24 hours times the 60 minutes, I'm getting 1,440 minutes. So we can see that the TikTok and Instagram time is greater than this. So the question was asking us whether we agree with the researcher. And the statement is going to be, yes, I agree. As plain as that. Then question number 2, still under statistics, we are being told that the amount of money runs that a group of learners spent at the park on a specific day was recorded, and then we have a cumulative graph. Okay, we have the starting point as 10, and then the last point as 250. So they're asking us that the data from the cumulative is represented within a table that is incomplete again. All right, let me just do that. Then they want us to determine the number of people that visited the park. So when you look at this from a cumulative graph, the last data point should be enough to give us how many people. So we're going to follow this cumulative and then read off the value where we find the data point, which is at 25. Okay? So in other words, we have 25 people that took part in this kind of survey or visited. Then they want us to get the values of A and B. So A must be the starting point as you're plotting the ogive. Remember, you plot using the upper class limits. Okay, so what is the number by 50? That's a 3. So the first cumulative is the same as the first frequency. Remember that. Then after getting the 3, we can choose to add up everything and subtract from a 25. Okay, because now that's a 10. A 10 plus 9, that is a 19. So 25 minus 19 is going to give us a 6, which will be our B. Alternatively, if you look at the interval of B, it's 100, 150. Okay, we can subtract this 15 and then the 9. We're still going to end up with a 6. Okay, then the next question they're asking us, use the ogive to determine the percentage of learners that spent more than 175. So we go to the ogive, where do we find 175? So when I look at the intervals, I'm seeing intervals of 25 everywhere, okay? So this is 125, and then this will be our 175. Then I need to follow this 175 up until I reach the ogive. Okay, I'm getting the 175 at a line that is just below, the line below the 20 mark. Okay, so if I look at the intervals that were used, we just 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so which means 19 people or 19 learners spent 175 hours. Now the question is asking for more. So which means if I look at the area that is above the 19, that will represent the number of learners that spent more. So I'm just gonna get, what is that? I'll get the 25 minus 19, which gives me 6 learners. The question wants the percentage. So it will be 6 over 25 times 100. So that is 24%. Then 2.2, they're telling us it's further given that there are 2 rides at the theme park. We have what we call the Intimidator and then the Terror Thrills. The mean amount of money that was spent is given below. Okay. So for the Intimidator, it was 13.2 cents or 13 rand 20 cents. And then for the Terror Thrills, it's 12 rands and 70 cents. Then the true standard deviation interval about the mean of the Intimidator was calculated to be 4.8 and 9.2. So what they mean is that if we get the mean plus twice the standard deviation, and then we also get the mean minus twice the standard deviation, that will give us that interval of the 4.8 and then the 9.2. So in other words, the mean minus twice the standard deviation is equal to 4.8. And then the mean plus twice the standard deviation must give us 9.2. Okay, let's see. If I use this interval, the first one, our mean is 13 rands and 20 cents minus twice the standard deviation is equal to, that's what I'm gonna use. So 1270 minus 8.4, and then 1270 plus 8.4. Okay, 1270 minus 8.4, I'm getting 4.3. And then 1270 plus, I'm getting 21.1. Okay, so that is the interval that I'm ending up with. And then I'll stop with that. So about the 9.2, I don't know. We shall need to see what happens. Then question number 3, analytical geometry. Okay, they're telling us that in the diagram below, okay, in the diagram below, A is -1,4, B is P negative 2, and C are vertices of triangle ABC. E is the y-intercept of the line AB. F is that, which is also the midpoint. The angles of inclination are that, and then alpha respectively. They want the gradient of AB. So it's a 2-mark question. When you look at AB, there's something that we have A as -1,4, B we only have P and -2. So we can't use the points, but we can use the inclination, where we know that M must be equal to the tan of the angle of inclination. So which means my M is just gonna be tan of 135. When I punch that into, I'm getting a -1. So the gradient here is a -1. Then they want us to show that P is 5. So I'm going to use now the gradient formula. Okay, so I know that gradient formula is changing Y over changing X. It must give me a -1. So if I use 4 as my Y2, so I'm going to have 4 minus -2 over -1 minus P should give me -1. So that's gonna be a 6. If I cross multiply, 6 is equal to 1 plus P. And then I move the 1 to that side, which means P is a 5. Okay, so from the gradient formula, we can get that. Then they want the coordinates of C. What is C? C, after getting P as a 5, we have this F as our midpoint. Then we can use the midpoint method to find the coordinates of C. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say if I have my X plus my 5 divided by 2, it must give me this midpoint value of X, which is a 0. Do cross multiply, which means X is a negative 5. Okay, I do the same thing with the Y. So Y plus a negative 2 over 2, it must give me a negative 4. I cross multiply, Y minus 2 is going to be negative 8, which means Y is a 6, negative. Okay, so which means my C is negative 5 and then negative 6. So that is our C. Then they want us to get the equation of the line AC. AC. So we have the coordinates of A, we have the coordinates of C. What we need is the gradient and then the y-intercept. So what we're going to start with is get the gradient. Let me just try to use a different color. Let's get the gradient. So we know that gradient, we said, is change in y over change in x. Okay, let me use negative, it's a 4, positive 4 for this y. So I'll have 4 minus, okay, let me do this. If I flip this triangle around and have a line that is parallel to the x-axis to be my perpendicular, so I'm going to take EF to be my base. Okay, so EF is my base, so which means I need to get the coordinates of E. I need to find the coordinates of E. If I can get that, then I'll be guaranteed this distance. I know that from here up to here is equivalent to the value of P, which is a 5. So which means my height is going to be a 5. What is shorting is just a base. All right, so this is a 5 root 5. So need to use the distance formula with the coordinates of T and T. Okay, so I'll just go to the next page. So I have my T and T, and then I have my negative 1 and 4 root 5. So from the distance formula, we know that AK squared must be equal to, and we're just going to say T minus minus, which is plus 1 squared plus, and that is T minus 4 squared. Then that is 5 root 5 squared. I'll open this up. I have T squared plus 2T plus a 1. Open this up, plus T squared minus 8T plus a 16. I'll try to regroup. So T and T, that's going to give me 2T squared. This and that is a negative 6T. Then when I simplify this, the 5 squared is a 25. And I open that bracket, is equal to 0. Then I can divide through by 2. So T minus a 3T, T squared, sorry, minus 3T minus a 54 is equal to 0. So when I use my quadratic of vectors, I'll end up with T as a negative 6, or I'll end up with T as a positive 9. But since they told us that T must be on the negative, or it's less than 0, therefore T is a negative 6. So that's how 3.7 would have been worked out for it to claim the 5 nodes. Then question number 4, they're telling us the diagram below, the circle centered at M, which is negative 23, passes through A, which is 1 and negative 1, and C, B and BC are tangents to the circle, and at A and C respectively, with BC parallel to the y-axis. Okay, so we have all of that. Then they ask us to determine the equation of the circle in this format. So what we need to know is that the general equation of the circle is x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. That is if the center is at the origin. If it's in this format, we know that A and B represent the center coordinates. So what we are shorting with is just the r, which is the radius. But I can use the points M and A and get the distance. Okay, so I'm gonna say MA squared. I'll get 3 negative 2 minus 1 squared plus 3 minus 1. And then I square that. So that's gonna give me 3 squared plus 4 squared. So that gives me a 25. In other words, our r squared is a 25. So to answer 4.1, I'll say x, we change the sign, the plus 2, we square that. Plus with y, we change the sign also, minus 3 squared is equal to 25. So that is 4.1. Then 4.2, they want the coordinates of C. Where is C? C is here. Okay, so since we have our radius as 5, which means from M to C, those are 5 units. If those are 5 units, so we know that from -2, you move 5 units to the left, you're gonna have -7. Okay, so which means our C is -7, and then the Y will stay the same as a 3, since they told us it's parallel to the y-axis. Okay, it's parallel to the y-axis. So that and that, so it's -7 and 3. All right, then since it's a tangent, touches the circle at one point. Then determine the equation of AB. Okay, AB. Remember, AB is this tangent here. So for us to get the equation, what do we need? We need the gradient of the radius. We know that the tangent and the radius will be perpendicular. And then we use that theorem that talks about the gradient of the perpendicular lines, okay? It's 5 marks. Okay, so let me do this. I need enough space. Let me just take it to, say, 4.3. 4.3. Okay, so let me just put it in. So they're telling us to get the gradient of AB. Okay, but we know we need the gradient of MA first, where we look at changing Y over changing X. Okay, so my gradient is going to be -1 minus 3 over 1 minus -2. So that's a -4 over 3. But I know that the gradient of the tangent times the gradient of the radius must give us -1. So which means the gradient of the tangent is going to be a 3/4 positive. Okay. Then I'm going to use the 0.1 and -1, which is point A. And say Y minus -1 is equal to 3/4 into X minus 1. When I open this up, when I simplify it, I'm gonna have a Y plus 1 is equal to 3/4X minus 3/4. Then I need to subtract. So which means the equation is 3/4X minus 3/4 Let's see, I'm getting 7 over 4. So minus 7 over 4. So that becomes the equation. Let's try to go back. 3 over 4 minus 7 over 4. So we're saying y is 3 over 4x minus 7 over 4. Then they want the length of BC. Length of BC. So since these are tangents, so from here up to here. But we already know the x-coordinate of B, which is -7. What is shorting is the y value. So we can use this equation of ours of 3 over 4x minus 7 over 4. If we replace x with a -7, okay? The -7, subtract 7 over 4, what do we end up with? We get a -7. So 3 over 4 times -7 minus 7 over 4, I'm getting a -7, which means that B is -7 and -7. So the most important coordinate here is this -7. Okay. So since we are moving from this point where our y is a 3, okay, up to 7. So we have 3 units above the x-axis, and then we have 7 units below the x-axis. So 7 and 3, that's going to give us 10 units. Okay. So we say first substitute the -7 to get a -7. Then we're saying 3 units plus 7, we get 10 units. So that's how we're going to get that. Then 4.5, determine the equation of a circle centered A that has both x and y as tangents. So if we have another circle, let me just green this circle, where x and y are tangents. So which means the line AB will be forming part of the diameter of this circle. So the only thing that I need here is the radius. But for me to get the radius, I can get the y-intersection. Do we know the equation of AB? Yes, we got it. Not so. Yes, we have it. So which means the values at that point are 0 and -7 over 4. Then I'm going to use these values and then the 1 and -1 and try to get the radius. Okay, so my radius, why don't I say radius squared? So it's going to be -1 minus -7 over 4 squared plus 1 minus a 0 squared. So what do we get? What do we get? What do we get? What do we get? So we're saying -1 plus now 7 over 4 squared. Okay, then plus a 1. That gives me 25 over 16. I don't know if that makes sense. 25 over 16. 25 over 16. Or something is not making sense. Okay, so if I'm taking 25 over 16 or 25 over 9, for me to get the equation, I'm just gonna say x minus 1 squared, and then y plus 1 squared is equal to 25 over 16 or 25 over 9. Something like that. Then 4.6. 4.6. They're telling us that there's another circle, okay, with a center N, which is P1. And the radius of this circle is a 4, and it intersects the other circle at M at 2 points. So let's go back. So if there's another circle that is using the same horizontal, to say I'm going to say negative 2. Let me just put it. Negative 2 must be less P and less, what is that value? I say this is 3. Because we say this is negative 7. 2 blocks are left, so this is a negative 5. Okay, so that's a negative 5. What's happening? What's happening? This is going to be 2. Now say this is 3. So if it's less than 3, it's going to meet at my point. So it means it cannot be 3. It has to be slightly different. So let me just indicate it as a negative 5. Okay, so negative 5 less P. And just that's not, because remember I said P must be less than 7. So between negative 2 and 7, that's where we can have our values. So that's what we had to do. That's the interpretation of that. Question number 5, they're telling us the diagram below. In the diagram below, P is a point. Okay, we have P. OT is perpendicular. That one, PS is perpendicular to the x-axis, and PO is a theta. Can we get the tan of theta? So from our part of tan is opposite of this adjacent. So when I replace these values, this is the x, which is a 12, and then that's the first plus a theta. Okay, 90 plus theta plus alpha plus whatever angle you have of reference. So in this case, the value of sine that we get in this quadrant must be the same value of sine that we got in this first quadrant, since both ratios are positive. So what we do, we're going to get this sine, which is 5 over 13, is equal to, if I'm to complete this triangle here, A is somewhere here, which is the x, and then B is this y value. Okay, so if I'm to complete the triangle, that's how it looks like. So we need to start by finding the value of B, because they told us this is 1,9. So I'm going to say B over 9 over 1,9. So we said 5 over that is the same as is another sine x, and then plus 2 cos squared x. So this cos cancels that cos. Sine and sine, I have sine squared. So it's a 2 into sine squared x plus a cos. Let me just take it. This can't be a 42, guys. I'm sorry. This has to be a 21. So since we hand side, I'm just going to say that the left-hand side. So when I see sine 5x cos 3x minus cos 5x sine 3x, so it's a sine cos sine. So this is a compound angle of sine, yes. So I'm going to say that's the same as sine of 5x minus 3x. I'm dividing by the tan 2x, then I subtract the 1. Okay, so 5x minus 3x, that's going to be sine 2x. And then I can simplify this to a sine 2x times a cos 2x minus 1. Then I need to cancel this out. Cancel that out. I'll be left with a cos 2x minus 1. So when I look at the double angle of cos that has a sine, that's going to be the 1 minus 2 sine squared x minus 1. So this one will cancel that one. and we shall only be left with negative 2 sine squared x, which is the same as our right-hand side. Okay, so that's how we go about with 5.1, 5.4. Okay, 5.4.2 determine the values of x for which the identity will be undefined. So for this identity to be undefined, the denominator must be equal to 0, something like that. But since we have a tan graph involved, we can also look at the, what do you call it? The asymptotes. Okay, so with 2x, I'm just gonna say tan will have asymptotes at 90 and 270. Okay, so when I divide both sides by 2, so which means my x is just gonna be a 45, because 270 divided by 2 is gonna give me 135. So I'm just gonna take 135 alone. All right, then 5.5, 2 cos x minus sine squared x. Can we show that this can be expressed as this format? So in this case, we are, what are we doing? We are completing squares, né? So 2 cos x minus, I need to express this as a cos, so 1 minus cos squared x. So that's going to be cos squared x, okay, plus 2 cos x minus 1. When I'm completing my squares, I'll get the cos x. What is a half of 2? It's a 1 with this sign, and then I square it. Okay, then I subtract the 1 since I've added a 1 here. So that's like a 1 squared. You know that 1 squared is 1. And then I subtract 1. So that is cos x plus 1 squared minus a 2. That's how it goes. And then for us to get the maximum, you look at this value here. Remember 1 or negative 1 is going to represent the negative 1 and negative 2. It's more like a shift or the turning points. Okay, so since this is a graph of cos plus 2 sine x is equal to 0. Okay, so from our calculators, we know that the cos of sine x is equal to 0. Then I can choose to divide through by cos. Oh, that makes sense. Now let me start that expression. Okay, then they want us to determine the general solution. Now, since we've simplified this whole thing to just a tan x is equal to that, I'm just going to cut out this and use it to determine my reference angles. Okay. So we start by identifying in which quadrants we find the tan to be negative. So we have quadrant number 2 and quadrant number 4. Okay, so when I use the shift tan, okay, the arctan of root 3 over 5, this is going to give me 19,11. Okay, 19,11. So this is my reference angle theta. But in quadrant number 2, the angle notation is always 180 minus the theta. So which means the first solution is going to be x is equal to 180 minus the 19,11 plus k times 180, since I'm talking about tan. So the period of tan is 180. Then when I simplify, I'll have the x being equal to 180 minus 19,11 is going to be 160,89 plus k times 180. K is an element of integers. Then in quadrant number 4, it's going to be 360 minus the 19,11. And that gives me the 340 plus k times 180. K is an element of integers. So these are the two solutions. that we expected for you to get the remorse. Then 6.3, are you telling us we've been given below the graph of negative sine 2x. Okay, we have a negative 2 sine x between negative 150 and 210. The graph is being drawn for us. What do they want? They want us to determine the amplitude. How do we get the amplitude? Remember, amplitude is like the maximum displacement about the 0 point or about the rest position. So for us to get the amplitude, we can get the maximum. We're saying we get the maximum minus the minimum divided by 2. Our maximum is a 2 minus 2 over 2, which is a 2. So our amplitude is a 2. It will never be negative. It always has to be a positive. Then they want us to draw the graph of cos x minus 30. Okay, so with our calculators, remember it's mod. Then we go to the table, and then we have the cos x minus 30, close the brackets. We don't have a g, we're starting from negative 150. So the starting point has to be negative 150. We press the equal signs. The end point is gonna be 210. And then the step is the intervals. We're using intervals of 30, 30, 30. So when I enter the step of 30, I'm gonna call that G. Okay, so do that to get your 3 marks. Then they want us to use the graph, determine within the intervals for which, okay, G of x is greater than f of x. So when G of x is greater, we're looking at the area under which the graph of G is above. Okay, so this area, what are the values of x? So in other words, we need to look at the points of intersection. With the points of intersection, since we found the general solution, because this question is linked to the general solution, let's just try to go back up. Okay, so we have this. They moved that to the left, sorry, to the right-hand side, and became a negative 2x. And then this is what we just plotted. So where do we find these two to be the same? Or what are the values of x with the general solution? So we have the 160, and then we have the 340. But in our calculations, we never had anything above, or from the graph, we don't have anything that is above 210. So which means this point here is going to be our 160,89. And then this point here is going to represent the reference angle that we got. The angle of elevation is theta, okay? And then PQ is K. PM, okay, this distance here is 2 times PQ. So which means this is going to be a 2K. Let me just write it here. That's a 2K, this length. Then the area of MPQ, the top triangle, the triangle on top is given as this. Can we show that MPQ, this angle here is given as a theta? So I'm going to use the area rule. I think that will be the quickest for me to do. So we know that if this, I'm going to label this as a P. I'll label this as a small m. And then I'll label this side as a small q. So my area is going to be a half, okay, times of this is going to be the same as MPQ. So that's how we would have showed that. It's going to be the same as PQ squared plus the PM squared minus 2 PQM, the cos of MPQ. Give me 5. That's going to be a tan code between the BDR triangle. since it's having the parallel lines. So I'll say, what must I say? Should I say BC over CD? I think that would make sense. BC over CD. Okay, BC over CD is equal to this BS AC respectively. Okay, and if they are midpoints, let me just write it here. Construct GH such that G and H are just midpoints of AB and AC respectively. Okay, then from there, we can see that AG must be the same as what? It must be the same as DE. Since this is the midpoint. Then we have, okay, we're gonna say it's construction. Then we're seeing that AH is going to be the same as DF. That is also construction. And then angle A is the same as angle D. Okay, so we did the construction with the midpoint such that AG is the same as all of that. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is, just take this out. Okay, we're now seeing that these two triangles are congruent. Therefore, AGH is congruent to DEF. Reason, we looked at the angles and the sides. I don't want to write that once. Over AB, that must be the same as AH over AC. Okay, but we say that our age is the same as DE. So I'm just going to replace that with a DE over AB. We know that AH is DF over AC. Now we can just flip this around, do the cross multiplication. Okay, AAD. Okay, so let me compare this and see which side goes with which side. Okay, this is the 9th, this is the angle, so which means this side is gonna go with this side. Is this part. That this triangle CBD is similar to this triangle. Okay. Now, how do I prove that? No, I'm talking about this big one. So how do we prove that? So we can see, remember, similarity first. We know that A2 is going to be the same as C. Okay. So that is going to be angle subtended by the same arc. I don't know if that would make sense. Angles subtended by the same arc. Equal arcs, subtend equal angles, something like that. And if that is true, which means even E2 will be the same as a B because of the same reason. Angle subtend equal arcs or angle subtended by the same arcs or equal arcs. And if that is also perfect, then we know, okay, that this whole angle must be the same as the center angle, the remaining angles. So I'm going to say ADE. ADE is the same as D4. Reason, the remaining angles of the triangle. So if that is true, we can say that therefore, we said CBD is similar to ADE. Let me just put it in the right proportions. So it's CBD, it's ADE. AED. AED. So if that is true, then I can also apply now my ratios, compare the sides. Let me just choose this. So this in green must be in green as well, because both of them are opposite this direction. Then let me have this one. So the side that is opposite the bigger angle, the side that is opposite the bigger angle. And then these last ones are going to be their own. Use black. So this is going to be the same as that. It is now talking about AD. Where is AD? This is AD. It's also talking about CD. That's a CD. Talking about DE. And then this. So which means I'm going to use the green in these black ones and compare the sides of the ratios. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say AD divided by the CD must give me, AD was from the big triangle, must give me the ED or DE over the small side, which is the BD or DB. BD. What do they want me to do? I need to make AD the subject. I have my CD, I have my DE. So CD is there, DE is there. We need to get rid of this BD. Now, what I can notice is that this line MD is from the center and it's perpendicular. What does that mean? Simply means that that line is going to bisect. So which means this is the same as that. Okay, so I'm going to say that BD is the same as AD. BD is the same as AD. Reason, line from the center, perpendicular to the chord, bisects the chord. Just line from the center, perpendicular to the chord, you know what to do. So where there is BD, I'm going to replace the AD, so it's going to be AD over CD is equal to DE over AD. Then I cross multiply. So my AD squared is equal to CD times my DE. So guys, that is how we would have put that. And then that's how it was maths. So, and thank you guys for watching. Let's meet in the next episode.